Hi, I'm Raylene, and welcome to Khaleesi Clues. This video will be breaking down Episode 5 of the 8th season for Game of Thrones, titled The Bells. I will be discussing the episode in detail, so this is your spoiler warning. I will also be giving my final attempt of possible predictions for the very last episode of this series. I cannot believe the end is so near. The episode opens with betrayal. Lord Varys is hard at work in his chambers writing secret messages. These messages contain the information about Daenerys not being the last Targaryen, that Rhaegar and Lyanna conceived a child together that still lives. Their child was hidden away by Eddard Stark. The message also reveals Jon's name and states that he is the true heir to the Iron Throne. Varys is interrupted by one of his little birds named Martha. She informs him that Daenerys is not eating. He seems disappointed and states that they will try again at supper. Varys is attempting to poison her. Martha is scared that she is being watched. Varys reassures her that the greater the risk, the greater the reward. One thing I need to point out is that Dany's lack of appetite or refusal to eat food may be a sign of her being pregnant, similar to Season 1 when she was pregnant by Khal Drogo and was requesting different food. Most likely, she was feeling a bit of morning sickness. That alone can make you not want to eat any food at all. Jon arrives at Dragonstone and is greeted on the shores by Varys. No time is wasted as Varys clearly suggests that he is worried about the Queen's state of mind. Varys refers to the King Jaehaerys quote stating that greatness and madness are two sides to the very same coin. Every time a Targaryen is born, the gods toss the coin and the world holds its breath. Jon, like his father Ned, is not one for riddles and asks, "What do you want?" Which is the same question Ned asked Varys when he was Cersei's prisoner back in Season 1. Varys assures Jon that he is certain which way his coin has landed and would make a good king. It is at that point that Jon knows Sansa has betrayed her sworn vow of secrecy to him. Jon tells Varys, "I don't want it, I never have." Varys pushes a little more by encouraging him that he would rule wisely and well, but Jon cuts him off demanding, "She is my queen," ending the conversation and walking away. Tyrion is witnessing it from above. Tyrion knows that Varys is betraying Dany. Even though he considers Varys his good friend, he reports the betrayal to Dany. It's kind of hard to understand how Tyrion could do this, especially since Varys helped Tyrion escape death back in King's Landing. I look at it this way. Tyrion is assigned a job as an advisor. One thing that we have definitely seen over the years is that Tyrion is very serious about whatever job he is given, whether it is in charge of the sewers at Casterly Rock or Hand of the King to Joffrey, to even Coinmaster. He takes pride in his work and sets his own feelings aside in order to do the best job that he can. If he hadn't informed the Queen, then we might have seen both of them burning just a few scenes later. As Tyrion carefully approaches Daenerys in the chamber of the painted table, we see the image of the carved dragon in the wall behind him. Again, I think this is hinting at Tyrion being a Targaryen bastard, but this is something that we may never know for sure before the series ends. If you are interested in this subject, you may want to watch my video titled Tyrion Lannister, Wake the Dragon. We get our first glimpse of Dany, and she looks horrible. Her appearance in this scene reminds me of the image that I had shown in a previous video. It was taken from the side of the horse carrying the White Walker who was escorting Craster's baby boy to the Night King. I see 3 images along the side where it appears like snow on the neck of the dead horse. From right to left, I see Jon, the Night King in the middle, and I always wondered if it was possibly Dany on the left with that white hair. It just always looked so monstrous to me. Now, after this episode, I sadly believe that the image is supposed to be Dany and her decline into madness. Tyrion is surprised when the queen is already aware that she is being betrayed. He is a bit confused when she claims it is Jon who betrayed her by going against her wishes and telling his family about his true parentage. This is similar to Cersei's line of thinking an accusal to Jaime about his betrayal for meeting secretly with Tyrion back in season 7. Dany also confronts Tyrion about his part of the betrayal. He tries to assure her that all of them are acting on her behalf, that they all want the same thing, a better world, but his words do not matter. Tyrion knows his friend is doomed. Grey Worm is sent to retrieve Varys. We can see that he has been continuing to send his messages. Varys goes quietly with Grey Worm. He is brought to the same shores that Melisandre has burned the old god statues with Stannis to stand before Daenerys. Tyrion quietly approaches Varys and lets him know that he is the one responsible for informing Dany. Varys says that he truly hopes that he is wrong and justly deserves his death sentence. His last words to Tyrion are, "Goodbye, old friend," which is a callback to his arrival in Meereen back in season 5. Tyrion looks at him mournfully as he reaches out and holds his arm, symbolic of a hug goodbye. Varys realizes that someone truly will weep for him when he is gone, and I believe this gives him a small bit of comfort in his last moments, to know that Tyrion truly did care for his old friend. It was an amazing scene as Drogon appears deadly silent above Daenerys as she passes the sentence to Varys without even shedding a tear. Drogon roars, and the flames engulf Varys in an instant. Afterwards, Jon is seen staring at Daenerys with a worried look upon his face, knowing that Lord Varys is dying for knowing Jon's secret. I just want to note that even though Dany's full body is shown during these scenes, her jacket is an A-line style silhouette with inverted pleats. This style can be very camouflaging to hide certain features, such as a bulge from a pregnancy. Next, we see Dany sitting by the fireplace, reminiscing about Missandei with Grey Worm. He tosses her slave collar into the flames, a reminder of her final words, Dracarys. Jon enters the room to speak with Dany, and she dismisses Grey Worm using the Valyrian language. We hear a troubling conversation between the two. Dany states that Sansa killed Varys just as much as she did by betraying Jon and telling his secret. The line that worried me the most was Dany saying, "Now she knows what happens when people hear the truth about you. Eventually, everyone will know the truth. So what does that say for the safety of all of the people? Would she simply burn them all for knowing about Jon?" She does not have the love of the people. She only has fear. He tells her he loves her and reassures her that she is his queen. His words are not enough. She slowly approaches him, and they kiss, probably for the final time, before he pulls away again. This reminds me of how Jaime had said that the Mad King would always visit his queen after burning people. Dany cannot accept his rejection and pulls back, slowly and coldly, saying, "All right then, let it be fear." The next scene is in the throne room with Dany, Grey Worm, and Tyrion. They are discussing Dany's plans for attacking King's Landing. Tyrion is begging her to reconsider that thousands of innocent children will die if the city burns. Dany refuses to reconsider, stating it needs to be done so that future generations will never again be held hostage by a tyrant. While she is speaking these words, she is seated upon the throne, hands placed in her lap. It reminded me of the scene of Cersei sitting in her chair, rubbing her baby bump during her talk with Tyrion after the Dragon Pit meeting. Dany reluctantly nods to Grey Worm in agreement that she will call off the attack should the city signal their surrender by ringing the bells. As Tyrion bows and exits the room, Dany informs him that Jaime has been captured by her men trying to return to Cersei. The look of fear comes over Tyrion as he knows Jaime is a dead man now. Dany sees Jaime's return to Cersei as a failure on Tyrion's judgment. She warns him that the next time Tyrion fails her will be his last time. He nods and exits without uttering a word. Davos is waiting on the shores of the camp when Tyrion and Jon arrive. Tyrion asks a favor from the greatest smuggler alive. The Hound and Arya are seen leaving the camp in order to go on their joint mission together. One to kill the Queen and one to kill the Mountain. I guess there are some benefits to being known as the hero of Winterfell. Next we see what Tyrion needed from Davos. Tyrion dismisses the guards outside of Jaime's tent. He loves his family, especially his brother. He does love Cersei too, even though they have such a horrible relationship. He already loves their unborn child. Tyrion tells Jaime that they will all die tomorrow if he does not convince Cersei to surrender the city and ring the bells. To live together by escaping through the tunnels where a dinghy will be waiting for them. I'm sure this was also supplied by the assistance of Sir Davos. Tyrion knows that this will be seen as an act of betrayal, but hopes that the Queen may have mercy on him. They share a beautiful goodbye. Tyrion tells Jaime that he would not have survived his childhood if it wasn't for him, that he was all he ever had, the only one who didn't treat him like a monster. They hug greatly and cry together. This is their final goodbye. Tyrion holding true to the Lannister ways, he was able to pay his debt to Jaime for saving Tyrion from his prison cells back in Season 4. A Lannister always pays his debts. Next, we see Euron the following morning preparing the scorpions and looking at the sky for Drogon. King's Landing is bracing for the worst. People are scrambling, children are crying, and the Hound and Arya are seen walking through the streets. They have to make it through the gates of the Red Keep. Jaime is seen not too far behind them. The Golden Company is seen outside the gates with Harry Strickland in the lead facing off with Dany's forces. Tyrion tells Jon and Davos to call off the men if they hear the city bells ring. Jon looks blankly at Tyrion. I believe he feels a bit betrayed too by him for telling Varys about his parentage. Cersei is looking out her window confidently, and you can see the army outside the city gates. People are still pouring through the gates. The Hound and Arya make it through, but Jaime does not. Jaime is forced to go a different route to reach Cersei. Euron looks to the sky one more time, and you can see Drogon in the far distant sky swooping in for his attack. He quickly destroys the Ironborn fleet, forcing Euron to abandon ship and jump into the waters, just as Theon had to do when retreating from Euron's attack. Dany then turns Drogon towards King's Landing, taking out some scorpions along the city walls. She blows a huge hole through the gates with dragonfire as she comes up behind the Golden Company. That was Grey Worm's signal. As all of the troops begin their attack, the Dothraki lead the way, followed by the Unsullied and the northern forces. Fire is everywhere. The men look like ants on the ground as Drogon torches them all. Cersei is beginning to look worried as she watches the walls holding the scorpions go up in flames. Tyrion is shown walking through the devastation, the same as we've seen him do during the Field of Fire attack in Season 7. Qyburn informs Cersei that the scorpions are gone, the Iron Fleet is burning, the gates have been breached, and the Golden Company is basically gone. She is clearly in denial and insists that the Red Keep will not fall. Grey Worm, Jon, and Davos are leading the troops through the now empty streets of King's Landing when they come face to face with some remaining Lannister forces. Tyrion sees the bell and is hoping to hear it ring. With all of the scorpions and the majority of Cersei's forces taken out, Dany lands Drogon, pausing briefly from the attack. Drogon roars in victory. The Lannister forces drop their weapons in surrender. People are screaming, "Ring the bells." Jaime is still trying to make it to Cersei. He picks up a sword from the ground. I had forgotten that he had been captured. That means that Widow's Wail possibly may be safe back at the camp. You continue to hear people begging to ring the bells, that they surrender. Cersei and Dany are still almost at a standoff with each other. The bells begin to ring. Cersei closes her eyes and exhales in defeat. Jon shows signs of relief. Tyrion is watching Dany, looking worried. Dany, not expecting her surrender, flies Drogon over the city, and we get a visual of his shadow on the rooftops. The same vision that Bran has seen and knew that this would happen. Dany begins to burn them all. Burn them in their homes, burn them in their beds. Tyrion is in shock. You can hear the explosions behind the Lannister forces and the screams of panicked people. Jon watches as Grey Worm throws the first spear and begins the slaughter of surrendered men. Jon is stunned as the men begin pouring around him as the battle ensues. Jon is ordering his men to stop and stay. Grey Worm is watching Jon and looks as if he sees this as an act of betrayal to the Queen. I think if it wasn't for the fact that Jon was forced to continue to fight, that Grey Worm may have attacked him too. The fighting continues. Cersei is now watching in horror. Jon is watching in horror too, and only killing when needed, including killing his own man who was trying to rape a woman. Dany and Drogon are destroying and killing everyone. Jaime is shown at the beach entrance to the Red Keep where the dinghy is waiting. Euron swims ashore this exact same spot, and the two men begin to fight. Jaime hits Euron with his golden hand, just as Bronn had taught him that lesson before when they had sparred. Jaime has learned a lot from Bronn, but he is still at a disadvantage. Euron stabs Jaime in the side. Qyburn is now informing Cersei that the Red Keep has been breached by the Unsullied. It is no longer safe and recommends Maegor's holdfast. Qyburn surprisingly has stayed loyal to his queen and escorts her away from the window. Cersei begins to cry and takes his hand with both hands. She makes eye contact with him for a moment in disbelief. He has been faithful to her in her times of need. He puts his arm around her for comfort, and they begin to walk away. Jaime is wounded, but he is not willing to give up. He sees a sword and begins to crawl for it. Euron walks over to him and stabs him again in the side. Jaime gets the upper hand and runs his sword through Euron. Crazy Euron, in his glory, lays down dying, saying, "I'm the man that killed Jaime Lannister." The only thing I could think of for this scene was the comical conversation when Euron met Jaime and was praising him for his glorious bravery from the Greyjoy battle. Maybe it was, in a sense, Euron's way of kind of enacting some type of revenge for the Greyjoy family. The scene was a bit strange, but I guess that's what we get from any scene with Euron. Next we see that the Hound and Arya have made it to the now deteriorating Red Keep. As the building is beginning to fall from Dany's continual attacks, the Hound tells Arya to leave, that if she follows him, she will die there. Arya listens, and as they part, she turns and calls him by his true name, saying her final words to him, "Sandor, thank you," and leaves. Sandor and the Mountain come face to face on the stairway as the Queen is being escorted to Maegor's holdfast. Sandor says, "Hello, big brother," as they all come to an halt. The Mountain begins to walk towards Sandor, and the Queen commands him to stay by her side. He gives her a warning look with those red eyes, like the Terminator. "I'll be back." Qyburn commands Sir Gregor to obey his queen, but he just flings him to the side like a rag doll, killing him in the process. Cersei decides to take her chances and squeezes past the two brothers as quiet as a little mouse on those stairs. The fight begins with Sandor knocking the mountain's helmet off and says, "Yeah, that's you. That's what you've always been." I have to agree with Sandor. His brother is a monster, inside and out. Cersei is now alone, but she has made it to the courtyard with a painted map of Westeros. Jaime has made it to the same spot. Their eyes meet and they stare at each other in amazement. It was so reminiscent of Jaime's return from being captured by the Stark and Bolton forces. The day that he returned to King's Landing, missing his hand, and found Cersei in her chambers. Cersei begins sobbing, and they embrace, holding each other, dancing upon the neck of the map. Cersei is concerned that Jaime is hurt and bleeding. He says it doesn't matter. He knows he is a dead man walking, but he doesn't care. He has found Cersei, and she is all that matters now. Seeing her with their unborn child and trying to get her to safety is his only goal now. It flashes back to the Clegane brothers as they battle it out. Sandor is trying everything he can to kill the mountain, but nothing is working. You see a collage of actions that are mirror images for the Hound and Arya. Arya is running for her life through the absolute chaos of the streets of King's Landing. Just as we see the mountain trying to use the same move that killed the Viper, Sandor sticks his blade through the mountain's eye and out the back of his skull. This is exactly what Arya had claimed she would do to the Hound one day, but those were the days when he was on her kill list. When that does not work and Sandor sees his brother removing the blade, he decides to take the mountain out the same way Brienne took the Hound out when she realized she could not defeat him. Brienne forced the Hound over the edge of a cliff where he fell and was left by Arya to die. The only difference is that Sandor decides to follow his brother over the edge to a fiery death below. The only complaint I have about this epic battle between the two brothers is, for one, I did not want them to die together. It made the fight seem like a draw rather than a complete win for Sandor, and I wanted that win for his character. The other thing is that the fight was purely for vengeance. I wanted it to be done for a reason such as protecting Sansa or Arya from the mountain and have it result in his ultimate death. This would have still given the Hound the revenge that he so desperately wanted, but also a reason to be proud of his accomplishment of defeating his brother. I actually wanted the Hound to survive, but I knew it was unlikely, and I was okay with that. It still was an amazing fight, and beautifully done, with the fire and the sky in the background. Their story began with fire, and it sadly ended with fire. Next we see Jon and Davos looking at each other helplessly as the fires of Drogon and batches of wildfire are exploding all around them. Jon puts his sword away and gives the order for people to fall back and get out of the city. He has come to the realization that Dany has no intentions on stopping, apparently not until it is completely destroyed. Arya is seen again, lucky to be alive and still trying to escape the destroyed city. She finds women and children hiding and sheltering from the onslaught of attacks by Dany and Drogon. Like her idol Nymeria Targaryen, she tries to lead them to safety out of the city. The attempt fails miserably, as the majority of them refuse to follow, and the few that do are quickly cut down by Dothraki horse lords and then burned to their death by Drogon's flames. Next, we see Jaime and Cersei again. They have made it to the lower levels of the Red Keep. Dragon skulls are all around them. All of the exits are caved in. There is nowhere for them to escape. Cersei begins to panic, stating 3 times, "I want our baby to live," followed by, "I don't want to die, Jaime. Please don't let me die." He takes her in his arms and tells her it's all right and to look at him. His hand holding her neck as he tells her, "Nothing else matters, only us." They are holding one another as the ceiling falls down upon them. So this scene fulfills Jaime's wish of dying in the arms of the woman he loves. It also may fulfill the Valonqar prophecy that Cersei was so fearful of her entire life. The hands of the younger brother around her neck were not actually there to kill her, but to comfort her at the end of her life. I hate to say this, but I really wanted to cheer for the day that Cersei died. Instead, their death scene made me sad and actually even made me want the exact opposite for them. I wanted to see them reach that dinghy and sail away together. What makes it even a little bit sadder is the fact that if Cersei and Jaime really are Targaryen bastard children from the Mad King Aerys, Dany has now killed her own half-siblings. I think I remember a Martin quote that said, "Nobody is more cursed than a kinslayer." Once again, we see ashes blowing in the wind like leaves, or even looking as if it is snow falling all around. A shell-shocked Arya looks to be like the sole survivor on that burning and destroyed street. She sees the charred remains of the woman and child that she had tried to save. The silhouette of a toy horse charred black in the child's hand. A reminder of Princess Shireen's senseless death, being burned at the stake by Melisandre and Stannis. A pale white horse appears out of nowhere. She slowly takes the reins of the horse, and we see her riding away through the burning streets as the screen goes black. We definitely have to wonder, where did the horse come from, and what does it signify? Bran knew this event was going to happen. Did he send the horse to rescue Arya? I definitely think it's a good chance. Bran did see Arya at the crossroads. Maybe he sent the horse to put her back on the right path. In some cultures, the white horse symbolizes the balance of wisdom and power. In others, it can represent death. The horse alone is a symbol of freedom without restraint. A running horse can represent courage, speed, and endurance. Again, there are so many things that this horse could symbolize. It could very well be a book reference too. Dany was warned by Quaithe to beware of the pale mare in the book A Dance with Dragons. But there is one quote from the Bible that clearly sounds like this scene is symbolizing. In the book of Revelations, "I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades followed close behind him." I don't know if they are actually going to have Arya kill Daenerys, but I know that Arya is going to be relentless in her efforts to serve justice for such a horrible act of war. I absolutely hate that Dany has become such a low and terrible character. She has overall been a good person that fought for and protected the weak. All I can think about is Dany's statement to Jon when she was talking about Sansa. She told Jon that Sansa was not the girl that he grew up with, not after what they have done to her, not after what she has seen. I now can see that her statement was clearly foreshadowing Dany's current character status. Her decline into madness seems so very tragic and rushed. Why the writers felt that the last few seasons needed to be short is baffling to me. So much more story could have been told in those missing hours for the past 2 seasons. I thought I remembered George R.R. Martin mentioning before that not all good guys survive and not all bad guys die. So far, I can't think of any bad guys left in the story to survive. So possibly, if Dany is now becoming the ultimate bad guy for the story, maybe she has an actual chance of surviving. I don't know. You all can let me know what you think about that one, because I really don't see Dany surviving at this point. How many times have we heard the statement, "Only death pays for life"? I could see them overlooking the destruction of the property, even killing all or the majority of the armed forces, because these are grown men who went to war knowing they may not survive. But I cannot imagine anyone overlooking the killing of innocent children, women, the weak and unable, the elderly, or even the unarmed men who chose not to fight. It actually makes me glad that Jorah is no longer alive in the story to see what Dany has done. I know there is a lot of speculation going on about Jon being the one to kill Dany. Can you imagine if Jon ends up killing Dany with Longclaw, the sword that was meant to be Jorah's but was given to Jon by Jeor? The very sword that Jorah refused to take when Jon offered it back to him? Jorah stating, "It's yours. May it serve you well and your children after you." Before I end this video, I'm going to give my final thoughts for possible predictions. One of the things that I thought of was Sansa's hateful statement to Jaime in episode 4. She had said to him, "I always wanted to be there when they executed your sister. Seems like I won't get that chance." The funny thing about that line is I have been predicting all along that Sansa would be taken as Cersei's hostage and held back in King's Landing to stand trial for a crime she did not commit. As hell-bent that Dany is right now on punishing all of those whom she considers as betraying her, it would not surprise me that Sansa is actually held as Dany's prisoner for her crimes. It may be a stretch here, but like I mentioned in my Tyrion Lannister video, I believe all of the Lannister children are actually the bastard children of the Mad King Aerys and Joanna Lannister. If that turns out to be true, then Dany is the half-sister to Tyrion, Cersei, and Jaime. What if Sansa really is taken to King's Landing, ordered by Queen Dany, and it actually is present for her execution? I really thought Sansa and Tyrion were going to have a baby together. Seriously, why did they put so many clues and foreshadowing for this prediction only for it to mean absolutely nothing? What a waste of time as far as I'm concerned. They could have used all of the time spent building on those clues towards another storyline like Lady Stoneheart. I also think that Tyrion is going to be in danger by Queen Dany. He was warned by her already. Now here's a random thought. What if Arya uses Cersei's face during the final episode? I'm not quite sure what that would accomplish other than possibly getting close to Dany, but it seems like a dangerous choice. I have predicted that Arya was going to use Jon's face this final season. I thought it would be to gain access to Cersei, but maybe I had the wrong queen. Lastly, I still cannot seem to give up on my return of Rhaego and a possible fourth dragon named Morning. I actually talked about them in my previous video for episode 4, but I never got a chance to post the video because I was out of town. I think I am actually going to go ahead and post it because although the predictions may be laughable at this point, there is some good ideas in the video. One more thing. I was thinking about a comment that Kinvara had said to Varys while in Meereen. She had stated that Daenerys' dragons were a gift from the Lord of Light. I have always thought that the only reason why Dany was able to bring the dragons to life was because of the birth of Rhaego. That with his birth, the magic of the blood of the dragon had strengthened. I have also tossed around the idea that Rhaego may actually be considered the R'hllor religion's god born into the world. So could it be possible that Rhaego is actually who they call the Lord of Light, and that particular title is actually a play on words? Lord equaling the fact that Rhaego is a dragon lord, and Light equaling the dragon named Morning. Lord of Light would actually be the same as saying the Dragon Lord of Morning. I have also considered the fact that what if Rhaego is actually a brainwashed religious fanatic for the R'hllor people? The dragons will burn away the non-believers. What if Jon has to kill Rhaego, as he would be symbolic of Dany's living heart that is mentioned in the Nissa Nissa prophecy? I think it would be interesting if Dany actually led the war, unintentionally paving the way for her son to sit upon the Iron Throne. At least until there comes another. I know people are saying that there is not going to be a throne at the end of the story. That may be true eventually, but I would think someone will have to sit the throne for at least a little bit to establish a new way of government for the realm. It can't just up and change overnight. Although, the long night seriously only lasted one night, so I clearly know nothing. Old Nan knew nothing either, or she just really loved to exaggerate her stories. There's always that one person in the crowd. The last couple of things I wanted to mention was in the scenes for the final episode that we will ever get for this amazing story. It shows Tyrion still walking through the devastated streets alone. I think he stops and is looking up at what is left of the Red Keep. You know he's got to be wondering if Jaime and Cersei made it out alive and to the dinghy. That's something he may never know. The other thing I thought of was the scene where Dany is appearing before her Unsullied, and you can see what looks like the remaining people who survived the slaughter. She will have to stand and face those people. I wonder if she will feel any remorse whatsoever for the crime that she has committed against her own people. For the throne. Well, that's going to wrap up my video. I can't believe that the end is here. I hope that it gives us at least some sweetness to help balance out all of the bitterness that we have seen in these past few episodes. We are definitely overdue. I hope you have all enjoyed this video. If you did, it would be greatly appreciated if you hit the thumbs up button. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. I still do not produce videos on a regular basis yet. I hope this changes in the future, but for now I can only make videos during my spare time that I have available. Thank you so much to my current subscribers. It really has been wonderful making videos for you and talking to those who leave comments on my videos. I hope you all have a wonderful day.